Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dangerous Ideas. I am Lee Camp. There are months where nothing happens and days where months happen. Is that the expression, or did I change it? Anyway, a lot has gone down today. You got Trump's inauguration. You got Biden with a slew of pardons, including Leonard Peltier. We'll get to that a little later. We've got, of course, the ceasefire ongoing, or it appears to be mostly ongoing. So much to talk about. I'm going to get into all of it. Thank you guys for being here. Please click the smash, right? You got to smash the thumbs up. You can't click it. It needs to be jump up and down on your laptop is what you got to do. But I'm gonna start with some video of Gaza as people return to their homes and their hospitals that they used to be functional, and the videos are now more and more. The videos are coming out of what Gaza looks like, and I'm gonna start off with that, and then we'll get to all the other stuff. But I also want to bring in my good friend Jaffer Khan.
Hey Lee, how's it going?
Hey man, happy Martin Luther King Day.
Thank you. You as well.
The day we celebrate a noble and impressive leader of our country who was killed by our government.
Yes, the day we celebrate one of his lines that he said and ignore everything else.
we cherry pick the 4 lines that don't reference, ending the Vietnam War or ending capitalism or anything like that, and we celebrate that part. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So while we discuss this, I'm going to play some of this video from Al Jazeera. This is inside one of the hospitals that they're now returning to in Gaza. Obviously, this is one of these things where it's like we should celebrate that bombs, for the most part, are not falling. And I think those who simply act like it doesn't matter at all or kind of have their head up their ass. And if you ask what I've seen in the videos of Gazans, a lot of them are saying it matters a lot. So let's not do that, but let's also realize that Israel tends to not stick to ceasefires and this thing is not over, etc. I want to read some from Mondo Weiss, their analysis. The 3 women held by resistance groups in Gaza since October 7th have been released, and dozens of Palestinian prisoners have been released from Israeli prisons. And of course, the Israelis are called hostages while the Palestinians are called prisoners, just because that's the propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
The prisoners that were released from Israeli jails include children and many who have been held in administrative detention, which means 0 legal proceedings or charges or anything. Netanyahu claimed victory when it's plainly obvious he failed in his stated goals to destroy the resistance in Gaza. The far right in Israel claims they have been assured this first phase of the ceasefire agreement is temporary and a return to all-out war is imminent. That some of them have quit because they were so furious over the idea of not bombing children.
So insane that to be like, don't worry, guys, don't worry. Anytime now, we'll bring back the carnage and death.
Yeah. The children will keep dying very soon. Don't worry. And how they say that just said that Netanyahu failed in his stated goal to get rid of Hamas. Even if you quote unquote support Israel and you love genocide and everything else, you're not actually stopping Hamas. For every bomb that falls, you're creating about 30 new Hamas, some militants, some who are non-militants, whatever, but people who support the cause if their family was just killed. I mean, it's militarily, it doesn't even make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I feel like needs to be mentioned is this, as I need to keep repeating, Trump is a horrific, narcissistic piece of human garbage, yet he did succeed in this ceasefire in like a day. Like, wasn't even in office yet, and he showed more willingness to push Netanyahu than Biden ever did.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I'm like, are the Democrats like fetishists? Like, do they get off on humiliation? Like, it's just so embarrassing and pathetic how easily Trump can rack up wins on the Democrats.
Yeah, in like not even in office, he forced the ceasefire. Now, we've talked before, and we'll be talking more about how horrific he is on Israel. totally supports the apartheid state and really supports this genocide. But he knows what looks good, what gives him power, what shows he has power. So even if he is going to give Israel everything they want, in fact, in the ceasefire deal, it says that if Israel breaks the ceasefire, Trump will support them. So it basically says, go ahead and break the ceasefire. But he still knows what demonstrates his power, and it demonstrated his power. It also, overturning the TikTok ban before he's even in office. Basically, TikTok reversed its course, which, people may laugh at, but you got 100 million Americans who use it and like it. So it's like,
yeah, I wasn't laughing. I was on my knees crying tears of joy, praising Trump. Something to laugh at. TikTok is a serious matter, Lee.
Because you've got a solid TikTok presence.
I don't give a shit about my following. I like scrolling on TikTok.
See, here's the thing. You need to do like me and get banned within a month of using TikTok. Get banned with no right to appeal and no reason. And then you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, that's insane. I don't know what I would do with myself if I wasn't allowed to scroll TikTok. I don't know. I'd have to really go on a spiritual journey of some sorts, figure things out.
And here is another important point, whereas people are talking about Gazans going home. Many of them are trying to go to where their homes once stood. This is from a great Gazan journalist, Matasem Adalul, which I will pronounce wrong like I do most things. And but this is a map showing that like almost all the 92% of homes are damaged or destroyed. 70% in North Gaza. This is the destroyed number, not damaged. Destroyed. 70% North Gaza, 74% Gaza City, 50% in Deir el-Balah, 55% in Khan Yunis, 48% in Rafah. But just the level of devastation is crazy, and people are trying to go back to where their homes were, but most of them are not there.
Yeah.
And to continue from Mondo Weiss, Trump, who was less than 24 hours from returning to the White House, forced this deal when Biden could not. They mentioned that Biden, in a fever dream, tried to take credit. The agreement signed, because Biden's pointing out that the agreement signed was almost identical to the one that he put forward back in August or something. Yeah, there's a reason Israel didn't give a shit and do anything about it back in August, because you showed no willingness to stop them at all. I imagine, I don't know what happened in the back rooms, but I imagine Trump said something like, we're not going to send you missiles unless you do this for a few days. That's probably what it was.
Yeah. It's like at least Trump will at least demonstrate some sort of American self-interest, whereas the Democrats, like, it was truly beyond, if you can set aside the human aspect of it, of how horrifying it is, it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Like, we get nothing out of this. And with Trump, at least there's some self-interest there.
Yeah.
It's just mind-boggling.
Yeah. And as I mentioned, Trump is horrific on Israel and Gaza. He also said, or maybe he already did it, or said he was going to do it, take the sanctions off the quote-unquote settlers, land thieves, which was the only thing that the U.S. has done, quote-unquote, to Israel during this entire genocide, was to put some sanctions on land thieves.
On like 30 dudes.
Yeah, exactly. On like 30 people that stole Palestinian land. And Trump says he's going to overturn that, which, it can't be stressed enough. He's terrible on Israel Gaza, but he understands power. He understands perception. And this showed power and perception. Manufacturing good perception. Here is a video of the this is the first batch of female Israeli captives being released, and let's see, and many are making the point, compare the way they look to how your average Palestinian captive looks after being released by Israel. There they are. So that's the three women, and people are comparing the photos of how they look, fairly healthy, smiling. I mean, they've been in a war zone, for a genocide zone, for a year and 2 months or something. But still, compared to your average captive that has been tortured by Israel, There's kind of no comparison. They look far more healthy than Israel's captives, most of the ones they're releasing.
All I know is that I'm gonna get some of those Hamas branded goodie bags to give out for my girlfriend's family next Christmas. That'll be my wrapping paper.
What's it called? The Hamas swag.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Nothing
Hamas
like
swag.
that sweet Hamas swag.
Yeah, dude.
Hey, where'd you get that iPad? Oh, it was sweet. I was hostage for a year and a half.
Yeah, dude. Hamas Christmas party, dude. It was awesome, dude. It went hard.
Let's see, and then this is some more video of this is one of the hostages that Israel's been holding. Oh, sorry. One of the hostages Israel's been holding. Palestinian leader, politician Khalida Jarrar has been released from Israel. Anyway, so a lot of people excited to see some of these people free for the first time, and needs to be repeated again and again and again. Israel had 5,000 hostages before October 7th. Before it even began, Israel held 5,000 people, most of whom had never had a trial or charges. But even the ones who had a trial or charges literally saw a judge, an Israeli judge, for 60 seconds, often 60 to 90 seconds, where they quote unquote made their case. Yeah, because in that 60 seconds, you can make a real case for why you're being illegally detained. Here's that same reporter that I mentioned earlier, Matassem al-Dalal, talking about going back to his house. He says, I tried to go back to my house and found a pile of rubble. So This is the video of his return home. And a lot of things can be true. We can hope this holds. We can hope Israel stops, sticks to this ceasefire, even though, where is it? I have it somewhere.
I don't know if you saw, Lee, because this literally was like minutes before, and we'll have to wait to see how it unfolds, but there was Eye on Palestine, which is pretty trustworthy generally on the ground, posted a video of apparently an Israeli sniper shooting a 15-year-old kid. And
yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, because one thing I was about to show is that there's already been reports that Israel had left booby-trapped food packages in northern Gaza, which have been exploding when civilians open them. Wow. So, which is a war crime to begin with, but this is also during a ceasefire. Israel is, it's basically bombing the civilian population. Just because it's left in a booby trap doesn't really make any difference in terms of the impact. So, in many ways, they're still bombing people, but there's a big difference between the amount of carnage that's going on right now versus pre-ceasefire.
Definitely.
Mark Dansky donated on Rumble. Thank you so much, Mark, for supporting the show. Mark says, let's cash bomb. I don't know if we want to use the word bomb, but cash bomb Lee for MLK Day. We can celebrate one righteous guy by showing off appreciation for another. Thank you, Mark. Incredibly kind of you to donate over on Rumble. But yeah, so there's already reports of Israel breaking the ceasefire, and this was put up by Palestine Nexus on Instagram, the shittiest of all social media platforms. And here is Israel's violation of ceasefire agreements, a brief history. In December 2024, Israel violated the 1974 agreement of disengagement with Syria, occupying 235 square kilometers of a demilitarized zone. Israel violated the ceasefire agreement it signed with Hezbollah in Lebanon in late November 2024, more than 470 times, killing 32 people and injuring 39. So that's 470 times during the ceasefire. They bombed.
I was going to say, how does that even constitute a ceasefire break after the 100th time at that point?
Yeah, no, it's not. It's just Israel signs these things because they view it as militarily advantageous, or in the case of this latest one, Trump seems to have made them. During the week-long humanitarian pause, quote unquote, in November 2023, Israel violated the agreement 3 times, according to the OCHA. When they opened fire, like you're saying, snipers, etc. After May 2021, the May 2021 war, Israel signed a ceasefire agreement with Hamas on May 20th, 2021. Within a month, Israel had violated the ceasefire agreement twice. First June 16th, and then June 18th, bombing Khan Yunis and bombing Beit Lahia. Between 2012 and 2014, Israel violated the ceasefire agreement it had signed with Hamas, twice as often as Hamas. Out of Israel's 191 violations, 10% resulted in death, 42% injuries. Out of the 75 Palestinian violations, 4% resulted in injuries. So Israel created far more carnage during this ceasefire. November 2008, Israel brazenly broke a ceasefire agreement it had with Hamas. That led to a historic drop in violence. Israel invaded the Gaza Strip with ground troops, killed 6 Palestinians. Less than 2 months later, Israel waged a full-blown war, killing 1,400 Palestinians, including 900 civilians, 288 children. UN fact-finding mission, known as the Goldstone Report, concluded Israel's wartime goal was to punish, humiliate, and terrorize the civilian population in Gaza. So there's just a short smattering of the times Israel has broken ceasefires, because they don't actually care. They don't. Yeah. They've committed every war crime in the books. Mm-hmm. Okay, I am going to move. Let's see. I'm going to move on from the ceasefire and get to some Donald Trump. I thought we'd go through a list of things to look for during Donald Trump's second term here. Thought we'd talk a little about these pardons Biden has been dropping like they're hot.
Really, marketing to your Gen Z audience over here. It's not even Gen Z. It's just both of us being old at this point. Yeah,
I have a list of terms I'm supposed to use to try and win over some TikTokers.
Yeah.
The problem is, even my list of terms that the young kids say are like what the 30-year-olds say.
I was gonna say that was my instinct, just be like young people. Then I realized, like, wait, no, that's from us being young. That's just old. No, it's still, we're both being old.
No, drop it like it's hot is not new. It's, that's like Nelly stuff. Yeah. You gotta most of the terms now, the newer terms I think are mainly noises. You gotta say like womp or something like.
Yeah, there's a lot of gun sound effects in the songs now. They don't use actual gun sounds anymore. It's just well, you do it with your mouth now.
Yeah. So Biden has been acting like a wop. How was that?
That's good. That's good. Color me impressed. No longer an ethnic slur for Italians. They have been invited into this country as white people. Now it's what you call wet ass pussies, like Joe Biden.
Yes, it's shifted now to wet ass. All right, Biden in his final hours pardoned Liz Cheney. Did you ever need more evidence that the two parties are the same? He's literally pardoning Liz Cheney, Fauci, and Mark Milley to thwart reprisals, as well as many of his own family members. This is really going to ingratiate him to a lot of people, pardoning Fauci. Uh-huh. Just a lot of love there. He also pardoned a lot of his own family members. Now, here's the thing. People need to understand. Anybody who acts like, he pardoned his own family members because clearly they're all criminals. I mean, yeah, they are, but so are all of our ruling elite, essentially in the same way. It's not like Trump wouldn't go after somebody who hasn't really done anything wrong. That sounds a lot like Trump. So I think people need to understand they're all corrupt. They're all horrific. You don't need to act like one side is the good guys and one side is the bad guys. You don't need to go, oh, Trump did this because he committed so many, or Biden did this because he committed so many crimes. Yeah, he also might have done it because Trump is a sack of shit. So you got both. You can have both. It can be both. But one of the biggest ones is that people are rightfully excited about is he finally pardoned Leonard Peltier. Now, this, as with many things, is one of those things where you're like, yay, why did that take decades too long?
Yeah.
Like, should have pardoned him. Our government should have pardoned him 30 years ago.
Why did Hunter Biden get a pardon first?
Yeah. I'll give some quick facts about Leonard Peltier. He's been in prison since the 70s. He was with the American Indian movement. He was convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder of the deaths of 2 FBI agents in 1975 at the shooting at the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. He admitted in his memoir, to participating in the shootout, but said he did not kill the FBI agents. And from everything I've heard, the evidence, the bullet casings, all that stuff shows that it wasn't him who did it. And yet they still wanted to make sure he spent his entire life in prison. Peltier was an active member of the American Indian Movement, an indigenous rights advocacy group that worked to combat racism and police brutality experienced by Native Americans. And so, yeah, there was this big shootout on Pine Ridge Reservation, which means it's technically supposed to be sovereign land. So really the FBI shouldn't be on their land to begin with, but doesn't really matter. The U.S. doesn't seem to care. And Biden finally pardoned him. Apparently he's still going to be on house arrest the rest of his life. So he's not actually free. He's just at home arrested. And, the people have been lobbying I had his lawyer on Redacted Tonight for an interview years ago when I think it was the end of the Obama administration. She was talking about trying to get Obama to pardon Leonard Peltier. And it's finally happened. So that is some good news. It is kind of comical when you have these, nightmare human beings that decide in the last 12 minutes that they're going to do something that we support. I mean, Julian Assange wasn't in his last 12 minutes, but he did wait till his final year in office. And as I covered at the time, it seems almost certain that the reason they finally dropped the charges against Julian Assange and stopped torturing him was because they were worried even though the British courts are so corrupt and that's how they were able to keep him all this time, et cetera, the Justice Department got worried that they may actually lose that last appeal. And if that were to happen, they wouldn't even get Assange to sign a thing saying he did all this stuff wrong and exposed identities and all this shit. So they wanted that. And so they decided to drop the charges in order to secure that. But the Leonard Peltier thing reminds me of Obama pardoning or commuting Chelsea Manning. It was like, how insane was the torture of Chelsea Manning? And then when he finally commutes it, you're like, yay! But also, what the fuck? Shit! Fuck! Yeah,
exactly. Took the words right out of my mouth.
How do you spell that again?
Stuff.
I want to play this. I think it's 1-minute video put together by Redstream.net about the amazing accomplishments of Joe Biden and what we're gonna remember.
Today is Biden's last day in office, so on this occasion, let's run through the highlights. Above all, Biden will be remembered for the genocide in Gaza, overseeing the slaughter and forced starvation of millions. Not only that, but he oversaw a brutal crackdown on people protesting his genocide. He killed a strike by 100,000 railroad workers who do not receive any sick days. He deported 270,000 migrants, more than Trump, but still less than Obama. He left people high and dry after natural disasters, after fires in Maui and Los Angeles, as well as after Hurricane Helen and Milton, all while funding Israel and Ukraine to the tune of billions. Speaking of Ukraine, he brought the world closer to nuclear war by approving long-range missile strikes on Russia. Homelessness hit a record high and inflation climbed unabated. So no, Joe, It won't take time to feel the effects of your administration. It will take time to heal from it.
It'll take time to feel the effects of my administration.
Trust me, guys. Trust me.
No,
You'll be thanking me later.
A lot of people felt the effects,
Mhm.
not in a good way.
Mhm.
Thank you. Mark Dansky donated again and said, watch the incredible film about the American Indian movement and Peltier's story, Thundercat. I think it's the title's Thundercat. It's a profound movie. Then watch Billy Jack, where some ass gets righteously kicked. I don't know what that means. But thank you, Mark.
Watch to find out.
Thanks, Mark, for supporting the show. So great little 1-minute video of Biden's amazing achievements while he's been in office. I want to go through a list of things that we should be looking for in Trump's next 4 years here. Things, positive or negative, but it really depends on how he behaves, what the hell he does. So I have a little list that I thought I'd throw in. I don't know if you have a couple, Jaffer. But
I got a couple, yeah.
Okay. I will start with the one that's most obvious. Will the genocide in Gaza continue? Will it change at all? We see that so far it has for one day. It will be interesting to see that despite how horrific he is on Israel, and everyone needs to understand he is dog shit. Despite that, will there at least be a heavy decrease in the bombing of Gaza and the death to so many children and women and innocent men, etc. That'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I wrote down, Trump really has a hard-on for Venezuela's oil, or you could say a WAP for Venezuela's.
Just got 2 more TikTok followers.
Yeah. For that oil there. And, I was like during his last presidency where there was that weird little mercenary attempt at getting into Venezuela. It failed miserably.
There it is, Bay of Piglets.
You had it in the holster. I should have known.
I had it in the holster, ready to go. The Bay of Piglets attack on Venezuela, which was one of many. They, of course, also named Juan Guaido, who'd never received a vote for president, the president of Venezuela. Now they're naming a new guy president of Venezuela who did not win the presidency. Mm-hmm. It will be interesting. They will continue to go after Venezuela, absolutely. Yeah. Both because they can't allow a happily socialist country. That looks very bad for them. But most importantly, Venezuela has more oil than any country on the planet, literally more than Saudi Arabia, and and the others that are up near the top. It has a lot more oil, so they want that oil. And if they can't, and here's the thing I say that no one else seems to ever want to talk about: if they can't have that oil, they want to make sure Venezuela does not release that oil, because that would be oil released into the market outside of the petrodollar. Horrible for the U.S. dollar.
Yeah, don't you just hate the free market? Oh my God.
The free market that seems to
have
U.S.
guns. His biggest enemy. Yeah,
seems to have guns pointed at certain parts of the free market.
Yeah. By the way, who came up with Bay of Piglets? That person, give that man a writing job. That is hilarious. Genius. I've never heard that before.
It's genius. It's the best name for a pathetic failed coup I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Bay of Piglets is genius. Okay, let's see. I also had will Trump, as he claims he will, end the proxy war with Russia in Ukraine. He has claimed he will do that. The mainstream media, the liberal side of the mainstream media, is doing a victory lap because it hasn't ended yet. So basically, they're like, ha ha, he said he'd end it before he even got into office, and yet we still get to keep killing Ukrainians and Russians. Woohoo!
Yeah.
So, I mean, just compare these two, how the media acts to Biden. They're like, so Biden he's working towards defeating Russia and Ukraine. It'll be roughly 15 years. Meanwhile, they're like, Trump didn't get something done in 8 minutes.
It's pathetic.
I do think my prediction is that he will end the proxy war in one way or another. That doesn't mean that we're going to have this wonderful relationship with Russia. I think the idea that the mainstream media likes to push, that Trump is just in the pocket of Putin and everything, doesn't actually fit with reality. If you look at the number of sanctions on Russia, the number of sanctions put on Russia under Trump was more than was put on under Obama. Like terrible sanctions. A lot of the treaties and shit were ripped up under Trump. It was not a good relationship during Donald Trump. So the idea that it's just like, oh, he and Russia are besties doesn't fit with the past, what we've seen.
Yeah.
So, but he very well may end the proxy war. And let's remember, Trump was impeached twice, which, is charges brought against him by Congress. And one of those times, the first one was for not sending Javelin missiles to Ukraine. That was their first impeachment. Yeah. He refused to send missiles. And by the way, he ultimately did. He just held them up for a little while. He refused for a brief moment to send missiles to push us towards nuclear war. Okay, so let's.
And that was wrong.
That was wrong to do that. Will Trump start a hot war with Iran? This would be devastating, both to Americans and to the Middle East and to so many. But we know that Trump has put us on the brink of the. I mean, basically, he did start a hot war because he assassinated their general. They then fired back on U.S. bases in Iraq. So that's technically a hot war, but it luckily ended with that tit for tat. But he was more than willing to do the things that would push us into a horrific war with Iran, which is actually a quite powerful country. And I think that of the moments over the past few years that the U.S. has literally put us on the cusp of nuclear war, that's top 3 right there. When Trump assassinated their top general, who, by the way, was pivotal in the defeat of ISIS, or most of the defeats of ISIS, and he blew him up when he landed in Iraq for a peace conference or peace meeting. He also, in that missile strike, blew up several top Iraqi ministers or generals or something, and didn't care. And Iraq at that time was supposedly, basically an ally of the U.S. Doesn't matter. Blow them all up. Who the fuck cares?
Yeah, that was insane.
Okay, you got one?
Yeah, I wrote down, I think Trump will float the idea of annexing Puerto Rico, and then one of his advisors will inform him that it's already a territory, and then he will say, okay, well, never mind then.
That'd be an interesting list, is the things Trump will propose that someone in the room will be like, so yeah, about that.
Yeah.
Like
you can't nuke a hurricane.
Literally, that's what I was gonna say. Literally, he asked his advisors why we couldn't nuke a hurricane. He literally thought A, that would matter, and B, that wouldn't be insane.
Dude, yeah. Oh God, I haven't really mentally prepared for another 4 years of this shit. I'm realizing right now. Just happy Biden's gone, but I'm not ready for this.
Basically, all you do if you nuked a hurricane is the hurricane would continue on course with radioactive debris inside of it.
Yeah.
You turn the hurricane radioactive.
Yeah, and not even a thought of like, do we want to like nuke a bunch of innocent marine life? Like, come on. No. Any person should not want to nuke dolphins and whales and fish. Come on.
Also, Trump is like freakishly afraid of sharks and windmills.
Yeah.
And so he brings up sharks like all the time. Yeah. And so it could have been that was his secret reasoning. That was his Machiavellian reasoning for nuking a hurricane, was maybe I'll kill those sharks.
It's his motivator for all of this since the 80s. I think he just saw Jaws at like a ripe young age and he just never got over it.
Yeah, clearly. It's part of it. I think something else we should look for in the next Trump administration is whether we all know he's anti-immigrant. We know he fucking hates immigrants. Well, unless they're white immigrants, unless they're Elon Musk.
Mm-hmm.
He hates non-white immigrants, and he clearly will not be friendly to immigrants. But the question is, will he be more anti-immigrant, not in speech but in action, than other presidents? Last time he was exceedingly anti-immigrant in speech. He ultimately deported fewer than Obama in the 4 years and fewer than Biden. Biden actually surpassed Trump's record of deportations. There's a BBC article. And so the question, obviously he'll talk all kinds of garbage, but will he actually be that much worse, like provably worse for immigrants? I think is something interesting we should look for, because
it's a good question. I mean, I think like a difference is also like what specifically he's been campaigning on between this presidency and last one. Last one, it was obviously anti-immigrant, but it was specifically about the wall, right? So then he came in and he did build some wall. He also campaigned on the Muslim ban.
He did build a thing. He built a thing.
He did. He built some stuff. There's yeah, and then he also campaigned on the Muslim ban, and then he did enact temporarily a version of that. But now he's campaigning on specifically mass deportation. But I think this would be much logistically a challenge to implement rather than the Muslim ban and like building like, a couple miles of wall. So it is interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see where that goes, because that's what Democrats love to run on, is that actually, they switched. They flipped the switch this time. The script this time.
What do Democrats run on anymore these days?
They just ran on abortion, nothing but abortion. This time around, Harris actually tried to say, "I hate immigrants more than you do, Mr. Donald Trump." But normally, Dems run on being nicer to immigrants, but it's not actually true. Okay, so another one to look for is, will Trump give another, with I'm sure the help of the Democrats, give another massive tax cut to billionaires? He has filled his cabinet with more billionaires than ever, and it is a question of, could he actually give more tax cuts to the richest Americans? Like, is that even possible? The richest 400 families in the U.S. paid an average tax rate of 23%. This is back 5 years ago when he passed it, while the bottom half paid 24%, meaning for the first time ever, the richest people in the world were paying less in taxes percentage-wise than the poorest in the country. So we will see where that goes. Let's see. I also had, will he push us towards actual war with China? We know that he will continue the Cold War with China and make that worse. All evidence has shown. But let's remember how close the Democrats pushed us towards actual war with China. One of the worst moments, and this is even from Thomas Friedman, who is like a pro-war piece.
Yes.
And even he said Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan was utterly reckless.
Yeah.
It was, because it was basically taunting China to see whether they would, whether they'll attack Taiwan. It's doing the same thing actually with Taiwan that the U.S. manufactured with the Donbass region in Ukraine. It was, let's see if we can cause fighting in this region, bring it to a point where the country we're trying to go after, either Russia or China, will decide war is the only answer left. And then we can push all kinds of sanctions, cut them off economically. With Russia, that succeeded with Europe. They did cut them off economically from Europe, despite how much it's harmed Germany and Britain and others. But it has not succeeded in many ways against Russia in other aspects. You got anything else?
I wrote down, and this is just kind of vague, but I think that Trump will ban TikTok and then reinstate TikTok, ban it again, reinstate it again, buy it, purchase it. It will financially ruin him, and then all the lawsuits will catch up to him because he has no money, and then he'll finally go to jail. That's just a vague
I like
prediction
that.
that
I would like it if he ultimately went to jail because of TikTok. That would be
yeah.
that would be fascinating. Most people know he has already overturned the ban of TikTok, which well, for the 100 million Americans that like it and use it, he's already on their good side. Took him 8 seconds.
And they put I don't know if you saw, but like their when they first banned it, they had a little pop up and it said like, basically sorry, there's a new law enacted, so you can't have this app. We're working on it, but we're working with President Trump, and hopefully, he'll help us change this. And then when it came back, the new pop up said, "Hey, we're back. Thank you, President Trump." And you just know that was like part of the negotiation for him. Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely, it was. So someone showed me that's what it said. It said, "Thanks to Donald Trump's leadership," or whatever.
Yes.
TikTok is back, and I was like, "Oh my god, that's incredible."
Yeah,
That's
TikTok.
incredible.
That guy was like, "All right, whatever, dude. Just as long as we can still keep being an app in your country."
All right. Thank you, Firepower, for posting that. Yes, I will be on Revolutionary Blackout Network tomorrow, like afternoon or something. I also had, because this is the most powerful thing, probably the most, first or second or something, most powerful thing that is decreasing the energy, the power, the hegemony of the U.S. empire is BRICS. And the question is, what will Trump do to BRICS nations? He has already threatened 100% tariff on BRICS nations if they try to replace the dollar. So basically, if they create a new reserve currency for BRICS nations, which now BRICS nations account for more than 50% of the world economy. Now, that doesn't mean BRICS nations have not separated from the dollar fully. So there's plenty of BRICS nation money using the dollar reserve currency, et cetera, and buying oil and petrodollars. But this is the greatest threat to U.S. hegemony. In order for U.S. hegemony to continue, which we can see is utterly destroying the world, both environmentally and otherwise, in order for it to continue, we've got to be able to print money, print as much money as we want, and not have it all collapse into meaningless pieces of paper, although it's not pieces of paper anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And in order for that to happen, you can't have BRICS. You can't have a large, powerful group of countries moving outside the dollar. So we will see whether he actually has any impact on BRICS. Okay, I got a few more here. What to look for in the Trump presidency as climate crisis continues to cause the downfall of our societies. Will the right wing and Donald Trump continue to pretend it doesn't exist? Like, we know they're not going to be great, but just how awful will they be on climate crisis? This is from the New York Times. They say Trump's environmental claims ignore decades of climate science. Big shocker. But it is weird. There is a bit of fluctuation on the right wingers in power who are slowly realizing that in order to keep their power and all their special possessions, all their mansions and things, they might need to start thinking about this.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a little bit of movement on the ruling elite, the lizard people at the top, thinking that that climate catastrophe is not maybe where they want to go.
Yeah, they're seeking restorative justice for their beachfront property that they're worried about.
Restorative they actually want reparations for the mansion they lost in the fires.
Yeah.
So that will be an interesting question. And also, where will Trump ultimately stand on AI? Because AI,
good question.
I'd say there are 3 things that will threaten our ability to survive on this planet in the short term, not 100 years from now, right now. It's climate crisis, nuclear annihilation, and AI. And it depends on what kind of guardrails we put on AI and where that goes, and whether you literally have AI piloting nanobots deciding who to kill.
You forgot about the orbs in the sky, but that's fine.
Oh, yeah. Joffrey would like you to know the orbs have already invaded. So
yeah, the orbs are here.
It's worse than you think. And Trump has said he's launching an artificial intelligence initiative.
Huh.
But many details are lacking. I don't know if you noticed there's a theme with Donald Trump. The many details are lacking theme.
Yeah. He's a big picture guy.
I think he has a T-shirt under his jacket that says "Many details are lacking."
Yeah.
But the truth is, even though he may be creating a artificial intelligence initiative, it's mainly I guarantee you, mainly an artificial intelligence initiative to make sure the U.S. and, let's be honest, the ruling elite of the U.S., the lizard people, the parasites, the parasite elite, making sure the parasite elite have control of the AI so that it's not like you and me can use AI to alter society, to create large-scale change. Make sure they have control of it, and make sure they have control over it against the ruling elite of other countries that they view as adversaries, like China.
Yeah.
And
it'll be a nightmare for workers.
Yeah. AI will absolutely be used to harm workers, oppress workers, decrease the amount people get paid. People will be fighting over fewer and fewer jobs. That's where things are headed. And I don't think Donald Trump gives a tip of a turd about any of that. I always wonder, with the stuff that YouTube's told to like suppress videos about, bad language, etc. Do they catch things like tip of a turd? Is that...
I highly doubt it. I highly doubt they have tip of the turd in anyone has that in any algorithm to look out for. You're on the cutting edge.
I am. Oh, I am.
Yeah.
Cutting edge of language.
Yeah.
I call it advanced rhetoric.
It is. It's very advanced.
So I got this in my final one, although everybody in the comments, please throw in thoughts on what I've missed as to the biggest things to look out for with the Donald Trump presidency round 2. My last one is, will he do anything, honestly, to decrease the power of the CIA or the FBI or the intelligence state at all? Because despite the fact that your right wing and your Fox Newses and your maybe even your Tucker Carlson's everything say, oh, the CIA and the deep state, they're out to get Donald Trump, they're out to stop Donald Trump, they're a real problem for Donald Trump. When he was in office, all that shit continued running, often got bigger. I mean, he didn't slow down the CIA at all. His only difference in the CIA was putting Pompeo in at the top, but that doesn't change anything. This is back when he was president. Trump proposed an $86 billion spy budget, which was the largest ever for the CIA and FBI. Now, that number, $86 billion, I honestly think is like way low, because I think there's a giant black budget for CIA, et cetera, that we don't really know about.
Yeah, we have no idea.
Will he do anything? And the truth is, I'll give the answer to this one. No. He might shift some of the power from like the CIA that he feels he doesn't have as much control over to other things. Someone in the comment section mentioned Palantir, which is Peter Thiel's giant surveillance weapons contractor. So he might shift some around, but it's not going to change the harm done by these horrific entities. Absolutely.
Well, yeah, Trump is not like a JFK, and I'm only bringing up the JFK when it comes to the CIA for just randomly. But
no connection at all.
Yeah, no. I would never imply anything like that. But like JFK's like had foreign policy objectives that like were directly going against the CIA. And versus Trump is not that guy. Trump is not the guy whose policy objectives, like foreign policy objectives, are going to be a problem generally for the CIA. So even if they might not like necessarily be like buddy, like, behind the scenes, and on a personal level, they're not going to have the same like professional differences that you could have seen with like past presidents.
Yeah, and JFK even had implemented something to decrease the funding. Was it I don't know if it's a bill or not, but it might have been executive order, but to decrease the funding of the CIA.
It was because of the Bay of Pigs, right? They kind of went around him, and he was so embarrassed by that he was like, "Dude, fuck the CIA. I don't like them."
The Bay of Pigs was one of the breaking points. I mean, I think there were several, but he was basically tricked into the Bay of Pigs. He said, "I'm not invading Cuba," and they, along with the Joint Chiefs, convinced him that this, scrappy group of whatever 90, dudes landing on the beach would destroy the Cuban government and take over the country for the U.S., etc. And it didn't work at all. And the CIA and the Joint Chiefs knew it wouldn't work. They knew there was no way this tiny group was going to succeed. But they thought that once these guys got captured, JFK would have no choice but to order full U.S. invasion and bombing of Cuba. And he refused, and he realized he'd been had, and he was furious with the CIA and the Joint Chiefs after that. Thank you again, Mark Dansky. Another donation. Love you, Mark. Okay. That is it for my list of things to watch out for. And well, I suppose actually we can throw this one on the list as well. Let's continue to watch the price of Bitcoin. Trump has announced his meme coin, and Bitcoin jumped up to $109,000 a Bitcoin as he created his complete scam artist coin.
Wow.
For those who don't know, Bitcoin actually has some meaning and some power. Bitcoin is used for transactions like around the world. People are using Bitcoin right now to pay for things. And it has much more power than that, and decentralization of banking, etc. I'm not one of the idiots who thinks it's going to change capitalism. The ruling elite will own a lot of Bitcoin, and they will control the flow of it, etc. So no, it's not going to stop capitalism, but it actually has meaning. These meme coins, like the Donald Trump coin and the Melania coin they've just created, are literally garbage. They are meaningless. But the only reason they have any meaning is because people will buy one and then sell it for more. So it's just a Ponzi scheme or whatever. See if you can get rich scheme. They're not used for anything. And anyway, it's a complete scam, but it shows his endorsement of crypto.
Shit like this, I always think one of my favorite Onion articles, and it's in reference to Trump doing shit like this, and it was an editorial piece that they had written by Jimmy Carter. I'll put Jimmy Carter in quotes, and they had Jimmy Carter write a piece titled "You people made me sell my peanut farm." Like,
wait, who?
The Onion wrote an article from the perspective of Jimmy Carter titled "You people made me sell my peanut farm," because before he was president, he couldn't own that business anymore. And so the beloved peanut farm that he grew up on, he sold so that he could become president of America without any conflicting business interests.
Yeah.
And now we live in this era,
right?
Like completely. Exactly. Yeah.
How far it's come that he literally had to get rid of his family peanut farm to be president. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is like, buy my face.
Yeah.
You buy my face online. His NFT trading cards where he's dressed like Superman.
This government was brought to you by Trump Coin.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. I want to show this video. This might be the last thing we get to, but so I showed the video last actually, let me do this before we get to that. It would be awesome, everybody, if you could support the show. Become a member at leecamp.net. That's my locals page. It's $6 a month. It's 38 cents an episode, for God's sakes, man. And I'm not desperate. And sign up over at leecamp.net or patreon.com/leecamp. You get all kinds of awesome perks. You get members-only episodes every Friday. You get all kinds of shit. And you support the show. And it really, really makes a difference, really helps. And I've been incredibly suppressed and censored. And the TV show that Jaffer and I did together back in the day was destroyed by U.S. sanctions. So you guys keep this going, and it'd be amazing. LeeCamp.net. Also, new Discord you can go to at tinyurl.com/LeeCamp Discord. And we're chatting it up there. Okay, let me get to this last story. I brought the first part of the story to you on Thursday, which is, Javert, did you see Sam Husseini getting dragged out of Congress?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. So I've had him on this show, great reporter, and dragged out of Congress. Maybe I'll show 1 second of it just to refresh people's memories, because I want to show how CNN responded to this clip, which has gone fairly viral.
Get your hands off me. Get your hands off me. Get your hands off me. Answer a damn question. Do you know about the Hannibal Directive? Do you know about Israel's nuclear weapons? Everybody from the ICJ. I was sitting here quietly, and now I'm being manhandled by 2 or 3 people.
So he's a reporter, a well-known reporter, asking important questions. Do you know about the Hannibal Directive that says that says Israel should kill their own people? Will you answer about the ICJ? Blinken's not answering any of this. So he's doing his job as a reporter, and for that, he's getting dragged out of this briefing by security. Now, here is how CNN would like you. Here's their take on what went down.
I'm already pissed off. I already can feel myself.
You heard he was repeatedly interrupted by some cringeworthy heckling.
Oh my God.
We're both sitting here pretty stunned, frankly. This is supposed to be a press conference with a room of journalists. Those were activists who were interrupting the Secretary of State.
Are they activists or are they journalists? Because they're actually well-known activists. Sam Husseini and Max Blumenthal. I'm sorry, well-known journalists.
Journalists, yeah.
Yeah.
When he initially was thanking the press and talking about the Israeli-Hamas deal.
Yeah, I think it's really surprising. A lot of our viewers will have seen protests on Capitol Hill, for example, during confirmation hearings, but it's very rare for something like that to happen at the State Department. I'm over there all the time in that briefing room, and you need to have a reason to be at the State Department. You need to have an appointment. You need to have press accreditation to come and go. So it's
what are they talking about? Press accredit? He's been there every fucking week.
Yeah, he's been there forever. They should recognize him. I mean, the fact that the guy is pretending that he doesn't recognize him is kind of weird. But beyond that, he's like, I'm there all the time, and I sit there and do exactly as I'm told,
Exactly.
and never ask a question out of line. Never ask a question that Tony Blinken, the butcher of Gaza, doesn't want to answer. You know, doing the things like my job. No, can't do that.
It's just so sad to see journalists doing journalism. That's just not what we're about here at CNN. Watch me furrow my brow.
The two of them are so disgusted. They called it cringeworthy that these two would dare ask questions. It's not like they threw a shoe at him like that journalist did at Bush, which I'd be supportive of. But
yeah,
they literally asked questions in a press briefing.
unclear who those people were. So I think there's a real security question there. Allow me to
wow. What a piece of shit.
This is a testament to American democracy and the way that American administrations approach their press rooms.
Is it a testament to it as we physically yank this guy out of the room? It's a testament to how free of a press we have.
Dude, I knew this shit would piss me off, dude. Oh my God. It's unbelievable.
This couldn't be less of a testament to freedom of press or democracy or any of those things.
Dragging out a journalist for asking questions.
That American administrations approach their press rooms. They give accreditation to a wide number of journalists, and increasingly what I would call less mainstream journalists, more opinion journalists, who have the opportunity to go to the State Department, to go to the White House, and to ask questions of the representatives.
No, they don't. They're getting dragged. What do you mean have the opportunity? They're getting arrested for asking the questions. Like, for those of you listening to the podcast, it's a split screen on CNN showing Sam Husseini getting dragged out by 3 security guards saying, "You're hurting me." While this asshole on CNN says, this shows what a free press we have, how anybody can ask questions of our officials. It really does. It's a testament to how free our press is.
It's really a perfect example of like manufacturing consent 101, right? Like to have access to be a journalist, to have access in these rooms, you have to play ball, and playing ball means not asking certain questions. And if you do ask certain questions, this is what fucking happens.
Of that administration. So I'm always amazed by whenever I go to these different press rooms about who's actually sitting there. It's not just Americans, it's people from all over the world, from Turkey, from China, from South Korea,
From Turkey, from China, from South Korea. If you sit there quietly and ask the right kind of questions, and by the way, Sam Husseini, this is the first time he was dragged out, I think, but he used to ask questions and they would call on him, but they realized they didn't really like the type of questions he was asking. So they basically stopped calling on him. I think when I interviewed him recently, he said it'd been like a year since they'd called on him. So they don't actually let him ask questions. And then when he asks questions without being called on, they drag him out of the room. Mm-hmm. So this guy is full of absolute tips of turds. And he also mentioned China, which I don't think CGTN, he says reporters from China, I don't think they're allowed in the press briefings anymore, because there was the whole thing back in 2016, which they also did to RT, where they made, for the first time ever, media organizations register as foreign agents, even though they're just media, which is not what the foreign agent thing was supposed to do. It was supposed to be against lobbyists, not against media. So I actually don't think CGTN is allowed in those rooms anymore, nor is RT.
Yeah.
Get to ask questions of people like Matt Miller at the State Department or Karine Jean-Pierre at the White House. And so there's a relatively open policy for now.
Does this look like an open policy, Jaffer?
This is absurd. I mean, this is fucking hilarious. If it wasn't so, like, if I were like seething with rage right now, I would be laughing.
Well, I'm sorry to feed you so much rage in this.
Well,
show.
I agree. They're tips of turds, but I would go further. I would say they're tips of turds, the bases of turds, and the entire shaft of the turd as well. And I'm sorry to say that. I'm sorry to use language like that on your show.
All the three scientific segments of the turd.
Yes, the apparently penis-shaped turds that I have in my head that have base tips and shafts.
Oh, I think that's a good way to end this show.
Why not?
That was the closer. Okay, well, thank you so much, Jaffer, for being on the show. Let people know how they can follow your stuff.
Oh, please check out my new podcast, Cops the Podcast. It's a little flip on the old TV show. It's a anti-propaganda police news podcast covering all the stories about the police that are swept under the rug every week. It's hosted by me and my friend Ashton Womack. We're two comedians, so we make it fun. But it's KAWPS, Cops the Podcast. Please check that out.
All right. Thanks a lot, man. I will see you soon.
See you soon, Lee. Appreciate you. Thanks, y'all.
Yeah. All right, folks, that is the show, but I bring you these 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Fridays is members only. If you are a member at leecamp.net or Patreon, you can go watch Friday's episode right now, where I spent a lot of it breaking down Joe Rogan's interview with Elon Musk and all the lies told during that interview. It was a good time had by all. But like I said, you can go watch it right now if you want to. leecamp.net, which is my locals page, or patreon.com/leecamp. If you are not a member, though, I still bring you the live streams 3 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. You should just show up, because you probably will not get the alerts. I am very suppressed. My videos do not go out to most people. So just show up, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. There's a new Discord where we're all hanging out and chatting. I've had a good time over there. And it's at tinyurl.com. Let's see if I can throw it on the screen. tinyurl.com/LeeCamp Discord. Not to be confused with tinyurl.com, which is a little hick that I'm good friends with. But tinyurl.com/LeeCamp Discord. Also, check out my Tibet video, which now anyone can watch. It's now up for everyone at youtube.com/Moment of Clarity is where you'll find my YouTube channel. Just click on the videos tab and you'll find the Tibet video that a lot of people have really enjoyed. It's kind of a bit of a behind the scenes 20-minute doc of my tour of Tibet and let me know what you think. And I will see you tomorrow. Keep fighting.
Well, brother, I salute you, though, man. You're one of the few that bring together this tremendous artistic talent and still be in such deep solidarity with oppressed people.
It's an honor to be here because I'll tell you, Lee, you have one of the funniest shows on television, bar none.
It's an enormous pleasure to be here. While I was waiting, I was leafing through your wonderful book.
The same to you. I love your show. Be happy to come back anytime.
Lee, this is one of the great honors of my long career, just to be in the same earth with you.
I'm sure.
We're just so blinded. We have so many blinders on because our society doesn't want us to know things. And so it takes shows like your show, and
it is clearly designed to eradicate.
Hey, good to see you.
Hey, Jill, how are you? Julian, thanks for joining me. Honor to have you, brother.
Consumerism is a theory that people should behave this way to help each other. It's not.
Mr. George Galloway, thank you so much for joining me in these dark times.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you so much, Lee, for having me on. Keep fighting. Ha ha.